Yeah,
Yeah, I
sure.
think now we'll open it up.
Yes.
Heterosexuals don't need to come out because homosexuality is not thrust on them.
Right.
Homosexuals often need to come out because the hetero norm is thrust on us. So some of the urges for coming out are complicated. Like Raj said, I think there's no one coming out. There's coming out to your family, at your workplace, on national television, when you're traveling, etc., etc. But I think there's a couple of things, if I may just add some layers to what you were saying and possibly disagree. I think we are living in a time of extreme conformism. We all have to be a certain type of Indian, a certain type of citizen, a certain type of respectable. To be queer in that context is much tougher. I think decriminalization has helped several people. I'm one of the lawyers who filed the case in 2001 and litigated it to success in 2009. I'm quite a few years younger than Raj, so of a different generation at some level. And I think in mine and younger generations, I'm seeing a lot more people much more comfortable in their skin, around their sexuality, their gender identity, etc. There's also a lot more information out there. But it's still a sliver of India. I think part of the majoritarian ism that is thrust on us makes us not want to be different. We feel that we need to fit, otherwise we will be excluded. And so I think part of the decriminalization picture is the picture of, on the other hand, having to conform and therefore not trying to be different, not trying to be too different. I think just on one last thing I'll say quickly is on marriage. Raj, I think, suggested that many of us wanted marriage, many of us never wanted marriage. The marriage petition was filed without talking to anyone in the community about what the community wants.
Right.
There is a huge amount of violence in the community. That is the conversation we want. There's a lot of mental health issues in the community. That's the conversation we want. The decriminalization finally that happened in 2018, one of the directives of the Supreme Court was for the government of India to educate all police force and magistrates about what homosexuality is.
Right.
The government has, of course, not lifted a finger on this. So you're not going to suddenly see a society which is much more accepting unless efforts come from all quarters. On marriage, the last thing I'll say is that, as I've written recently, and I think I shared with you in the scroll, a piece on the fact that actually most queer people don't have the luxury of being in relationships. So what's the idea, what's the use of marriage, of coupledom? Can we reimagine the law to mean that we're other kinds of family?
Right.
The atypical or the chosen family, as it were. And there's history to this. The hijra gharanas of India show us how that's done. Maitri Karar is a system in Gujarat where actually women have entered into agreements with each other just for the sake of conveniently being able to live while they're aging. If something happens to me tomorrow, you can take that decision. If something happens to you tomorrow, I can benefit from your pension, from your government job. So I think that's the imagination that some of us are trying to actually instill in the otherwise highly normative way in which gay activism in India is happening today.
Right.
Sorry.
I fully agree with what Vivek said. First of all, that marriage, in spite of what I've been saying, I personally am opposed to it because you don't want gay marriage to play out exactly the way cis-het marriage does. There are many disadvantages there. So, as he said, there was not enough consultation and so on. And not just now, I remember I was in Concordia in Canada and students made a video, asking about gay marriage. A lot of the people in the video, I was also included, said that no, they didn't want because you don't want to simply replicate something which has its own pitfalls.
Right.
So I agree with that, and the whole idea of alternative families. This especially happened, Vivek, during the pandemic. I mentioned that because caregivers were not recognized. They wanted, what they understand to be family, which is biological family, brothers, sisters, wives, husbands, children, grandchildren. That is the idea of family. Can you expand on that? the word family, in the subculture, Vivek, it was always used. I could say, supposing I meet you and I say, you don't know about me, and I say, Vivek, we are family. Or Ram, we are family. That's what it would mean. That's always been there. Right?
Any other question, point of view, comment?
So you kept asking Raj what you would like the takeaway from the book to be like, if I may. So I'm a part of Swikar. Swikar, if some of you would know, is basically a national association for parents of LGBTQIA plus children. Sridhar Rangayan is quite involved. I think he was one of the
Sridhar
founders.
Rangayan?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So his mother is a part of Swikar as well.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, the interesting part about literature, whatever I have read, my son is gay, and whatever I have read, he wears his identity on his sleeves. He doesn't bother hiding it. There's lots of stuff that happens when he goes around, people stare at him, he has long hair, all that kind of stuff. He doesn't bother. It affects him very deeply, very personally, but Gen Z, he still thinks he should be who he is. But I think literature like this, especially which is very India-centric, is important. It's important for a lot of other people to know that something like this exists in India.
Right.
People are living their lives however quietly or loudly they wish to. There are many depictions in the media, as you also mentioned, some of it done very appropriately, some of them not so much. But I think that what we did was, when our son, he didn't really come out, we sort of figured along the way. But we actually had conversations with friends and family around us because we didn't want him to feel uncomfortable being home whenever he was home. And I think one of the things that, very elderly mother-in-law who's well into her 80s, I think one of the reasons why she kind of also was able to understand and assimilate the information we were giving her was because another close friend of theirs had a son who was gay, much older than my son, and they were very open about it.
Right.
And they also had all these conversations. They answered a lot of questions which might be very hurtful for people from the community sometimes because it's very personal to you. But as parents, it was rather easy for us to, I wouldn't say it was not easy, of course, but it's easy for us. So when you say, as heterosexual should we come out, that is obviously your personal choice because there's a huge safety element. And when there are kids that we are talking to, since we are a part of Swikar and there are young people who come up to us and ask us, do you think we should come out to our parents? We said, test the waters first. Because you suddenly don't want to wake up one day and find that
I fully agree with that. That didn't come up, but you have to be sure of your infrastructure before you take the risk. I've always said that to people, that if you're not sure, it's much safer to be in the closet.
Right.
Otherwise, you might be jeopardizing your own safety. There are still horror stories. I agree with what you said and what Vivek said. It's also generational, but it's also class.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, for those who are comfortable, the younger generation after 2018, I met them at Lit Fest and so on, but they belong to a certain class. If you go down, the auto driver, the masseur, the motor mechanic, you can't invisibilize them. And there's no question of the judgment really having any difference. So this is one thing that I find, which in the support groups, this has often come up. When Ashok Rao Kavi started Humsafar Trust, this whole thing about language came up. That you all are talking in English and we don't understand English. Right? And then they said, okay, we'll have some of the discussions in Hindi or Marathi. But then the English lobby didn't like that. That's how I think Gay Bombay was formed. They, Bikram Doctor and others, Parmesh Shani, they formed their own. So this kind of elitism in the subculture is equally bad.
So will your books be translated in Hindi?
No, ironically, no. They're translated into European languages, but not in any Indian language. So that's not in my hands. If somebody wants to translate, they have to acquire the rights and so on. But so this thing about elitism, your son or your friends, we can't restrict it to people like us.
I agree, but precisely that's why maybe the awareness in a more colloquial sense to be able to even, as you rightly said, people should know all of this exists
movies
at different levels.
Movies are doing
of course, but movies, you rightly said before, have their own agenda, and it's leveraging on the opportunity.
It generates some. There are Malayali films, and what they are doing. The nice thing is they are taking mainstream actors, right, like Mahmud and all that, and they are making these films. So regional Marathi films will also be there, and so that helps. In terms of awareness, yeah, I mean the awareness is spread that way.
So hence, I was just very curious that while all these stories do exist, and if you go deeper into the country, how does this translate into, at some point there needs to be some relatability, like something like this is existing and people are coming out and sharing these stories, and as you said, in this society, and if you divide it with class.
Actually people are coming out. People are coming out in small towns. I work on these issues all the time. It's remarkable how many people in the middle of Madhya Pradesh, to a case recently in Punjab, people are escaping their homes because the natal family violence is extreme. But they are able to identify themselves on with an Instagram reel that they see, or other information, because young people, that's how information's getting there.
Absolutely.
So people are coming out, it's happening in languages, but the reaction is also much stronger sometimes in terms of violence. There's two other things that are not happening though. Well, one horrible thing which is happening is, according to me, the way in which masculinity today is deemed as respectable masculinity, and what that means for men generally, and what that means for not fitting into those ideas of masculinity. And the other is sex education. We have totally dropped the ball on a lot, and by sex I don't mean sex simply in terms of the birds and the bees, but actually understanding gender identity, sexuality, etc. It is not on the table. And it's a huge problem. It's a massive gap, because that's the age at which you are supposed to be exposed in a healthy manner to some of these things, and it's just not happening.
And that helps people really identify at a more younger age in terms of understanding your own self, and So the whole point of how you've introduced a course with the Pune University, I think this needs to be trickled down into a more, at a school level, maybe at a very younger age, people need to have understanding of the nuances of all of this.
Yeah, but who will do it? Who will bell the cat? Who will do it? When they've tried to do this in schools, there's been all-round resistance. Parents, teachers, management, they've not entertained that kind of thing. So it's not done.
You had a... It's on.
Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah.
Can you hear? Anyway, I'll be a little louder. I think talking about the point that you raised, which is very pertinent to this discussion, what's the point of writing this book? You're giving 25
No, it was not my point. It was like, okay,
but
what is the singular collective consciousness of...
How would it actually translate to the greater good?
Right.
The use of this book eventually, because books do have to kind of somewhere make relevance, right? I think reading these stories definitely puts us, where do I belong to? There are 25 case studies. Each one of us can identify where we are. And I think, in my personal opinion, coming out should be as soon as possible. The younger, the better, because you get more time to adjust mentally, because coming out is not about a physical appearance. It's actually about like the mental process, that how you come out in layers, coming out to yourself. Many people think like, oh, it's just a habit that I'll forego after I'm married. That is itself is the biggest coming out, like 75% of your war is one when you say that like, no, I am a different person and this is what I am and this is what the God wanted me to be.
Right.
And I'm from the same DNA and the gene pool, so I'm not different. I'm not been born to somebody else and plucked or planted over here. Then of course the next stage is like coming out to your parents and brothers and maybe to your close friends or like colleagues in the work. But that's a safety net that where do you want to draw it?
Right.
Like for people like Raj Rao or for me, the safety net is the world, you know. But he also very clearly said like, yes, who comes out? I think, you know, like that's a big question. Like, you know, anybody who feels that they are a very strong individual should definitely come out. Definitely. I feel like somebody who's an author, an architect, or a doctor who can earn their bread and butter. In fact, finally it is the bread and butter which matters. How do you survive? When everybody abandons you, you need to have some skill to survive. If you do have that skill and the authority to kind of conduct that life, then you should come out. I think the more people come out, the better it is because the visibility is more. Like somebody said, like I think you only told it. Foucault said that bachelor is now like a common word.
Yeah, he said one day the word homosexuality.
Yeah, exactly. I remember in my childhood, like the word divorce was something which was, nobody used to talk about it. Today, everybody talks, oh, I'm divorced very easily, even to a stranger. So the more you talk about, the more these kind of events happen, the more OTT platforms and then, you know, more books come out.
See,
I think we are talking about it.
What's your name?
Shuchita.
Suchita.
Yes.
What you said, you know, because parents, right? Do you know that there's still, that's why the court had to actually say that this thing, this wretched thing called conversion therapy is illegal. But parents, very often though, if you come out, they take you to quacks and babas and so on. Shock therapy is certainly one way that they think in which you can be cured, right? So that's what you meant and Vivek meant, that you know, when we said that you have to be very sure that this won't happen in your case. Otherwise, as you said, Vivek, you know, is there a support system where you can leave the house, right? And that is definitely on the rise compared to in the 90s and so on. But a lot more needs to be done. You can't be sure. Conversion, the Madras High Court and I think now even the Supreme Court have said that conversion therapy, if you try to convert you know, homosexuals and convert them to being heterosexual. Because how do you convert? You know, you convert through these various very painful therapies, right? This is still going on. It's not as if it's over. That is why when you said education, parents also need to be educated, and I think support groups are doing their bit, having special workshops for the parental generation, right? You see, one problem is that this is not an individualist culture, right? This is a familial culture. This is what we call a shame culture. So it's not just about yourself. In a culture where people continue to live in families forever and ever, not like America where after a certain age you move out and then your life is your own life. But here is the whole question of shaming. You know, there are so many arguments that they put forth. They'll say, okay, all right, you come out, but now it will affect the wedding prospects of your siblings, right? How can we face our relatives? How can we face our colleagues? So you're shaming us. This whole business of being shamed. So these are things that come in the way, you know.
Any more questions, comments? We've come to the end of this conversation due to time constraints. We would
You're
love
all
to-
invited
Yes,
for coffee and samosas.
yeah, we do.
Yeah, so you didn't announce that.
Yeah, so he has one question.
I have one question.
My student you were, right?
Huh?
You were my student, right?
Yeah, I am your student.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I
You were
I
my
was in department in
I know that.
2005.
I know that.
Okay.
I never forget my students.
I have one question. I think you have forgot me. Thank you for that.
I haven't forgotten you. Go ahead
It's a
with your
good
question.
program today. Delicious fish of intellectual quality that you have given us. But one thing you mentioned in your book, I think, about Dr. Gade, that he has placed HOD of a Marathi subject.
No, I didn't mention that in my book.
But
I
in your
said it.
interview, in your interview, you
Yeah,
mentioned
I
that.
mentioned that.
Huh? So I was there. I was a leader of the students, and I went to the Gade and I asked same question.
Really, you did that? I didn't
Yes,
know.
you were
Okay.
there. Even Aniket came to me when he need a leave to go to Delhi.
So he's giving us dope on all that happened.
That time I'm sorry. But many problems they were students faced in the department, and you all of were there, but you all they were not accessible to the students. The students were waiting out of your chambers 2 or 3 hours for your signs. That was a very horrible. And the Gade has taken decision on the basis of that. If you are not accessible to the students, then what is the use that you were there a professor? First thing is that. Second thing is that most of the students from in that department, they were from rural background. 90% students. And most of the students you prefer means those Gokhale, Aniket, and you were preferred to elite class students. They were roaming outside or to around on those days to you, and they didn't get access. Actually, the rural people, rural students, they didn't get access to meet you or to discuss with you.
You're saying they didn't get access to me?
No, I am not blaming you. Miss,
No,
the
but
discussion came here.
Let me correct
No,
you.
discussions came here. That's why I am raising that question.
I beg your
was
pardon.
a student
No, I have to-
there.
I have to stop
See,
you.
I was a student there. I experienced all that
So,
things. Don't say like that. No. Listen.
No, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to ask
Let me
Nitin.
Let me to finish.
Let
Let me to complete. Let me to finish.
He's accusing me
Let
of
me to
elitism of
finish.
all people, me.
No, but he is fair
Alright,
enough
go
to
on.
make a point.
No, let me to finish.
Please
you have
finish,
to you have a patience to listen to criticism also.
Yes,
All right, you
please.
give him a
Is it
fitting
right?
answer.
If someone criticizes, then you have to patient to listen. No, I will make it brief. Don't worry. The issues discussed on this platform, that issues are not belong to our society, or not belong to the rural area, or not belong to the India. Is it right? That is I am thinking. No. What I am
Let him finish.
discussing, that is legal part.
Please.
So, what I am telling you that I was there. I met many times Gade. I met many times Aniket. I told all of them, the students, they were suffering a lot because of such a types of your habitual and moody atmosphere or attitude. So please change all this attitude, because all students, they were belong to the rural background and they need help from your sides. They expect much from your side, like a guidance and all these things. If you were not accessible for that, so Gade is he is a scientist. He was a great intellectual person. So he has taken a historical decision on those days, such he has appointed a Marathi man as a HOD of an English department. So there will be that discussion had happened in a management council. That discussion had happened in Senate counseling, and after that the decision has taken that if the professors were not accessible to the students, if they are not working for the students, then there will not be any use for the education. So that's why they way he has taken such a types of a
So did
decision.
that help? By
No.
having a Marathi professor, did that help?
No. He helped lot.
How did it
But
help?
what he helped lot. But in the end, the decision was changed, and appointed Gade has taken reverse that
I
decision.
believe they've done that even now. Who is the present head? Prabhakar?
That is the thing.
I think what
No.
what I can
It's okay.
make from this
I
is
raised my questions. If you don't have any patience, or if you don't have any types of acceptance of accepting the criticism, then it's your problem. It's not. It's not
No,
my
we
problem.
accept criticism.
I am also professor. I am a head of the department in Sangyu College, Babarauji Gholab College, where is a center is there, PhD center is there. I am a HOD there, and 10 students are doing PhD under my guidance. Is it right? Thank you very much.
so. No, it's interesting. What we can take from this is it has to be, and what you were also saying, that the awareness in at all as.
But I think that there are some students of his batch, and you should also ask them, like Satish.
No, I really appreciate the question. I'll take a moment. And I've seen you on the campus, right? Of course, all of us have different experiences from different personalities, right? And like, of course, about Raj, I mean, you must have felt that, true. Indeed, like, I too, like, I come from a very, like, remote village from Marathwada region. And I didn't find, like, Raj was inaccessible. What I need, I needed to put extra effort to, make him feel that, okay, I can actually discuss this, I can talk about this. So sometimes, like, even as a professor, which I don't personally like word, I actually hate this word, like, I don't qualify for the word. But I'm gonna take a moment or so to answer this question. Like, there are so many layers to it. I didn't feel that, I could not easily ask him a question, or so and so forth. I felt like, it was very easy. Like, me being from, like, very sort of, Marathwada village guy, I didn't feel that. Why? And it wasn't that, like, I was very good at language. Still, I don't feel so. And I could meet him easily, I could ask him questions, and I think, like, in the last month, like, he received a review of this book, and he happened to share that with only 2 students of his, right? And he added, like, I know that only couple of students could actually understand the quality of the review. As a professor, I do expect, like, from my students too, a lot more, right? Even Aniket, like, I did write an obituary. I did talk about him, but initially I did struggle to, pass his standard, or rather to climb that ladder. And I did struggle, but somehow towards the end, I did make it one. And then, like, last year, I searched an essay, a wonderful essay late Professor Aniket Zavre wrote. I don't know, maybe when he was at FC and then somewhere else, and then finally Pune University. And the essay is The Subaltern Student. And he talked about the students like us, those who come from, remote places of Maharashtra. But then I did notice, and I do, like, shortly find substance in your argument, that somehow professors, I don't know why, but had that problem. And then when I noticed, I did find, like, okay, but then Aniket was too. I mean, he wrote a wonderful essay, very articulative, but what about him? Same. And then I'll conclude this with saying, I, as a Satish Gore, worked on the campus for students for last 7 years. As a president, and then, as a student activist. And I'll tell you about Mr. Gade. I was beaten up right in front of him at his office. And he was then a VC, and he did nothing of that. I was beaten up, and I repeat it, but he did nothing out of that. He didn't ask me on the other day, like, please call him No, nothing. Right? So if we sort of, pick up on isolated incidences, there'll be many more. Right? So I don't know, I was there. I joined the department in 2011. So I was there. When I came to the department, I know the HOD was from Marathi department, right? And I could see, and my seniors could tell me that it was difficult. It was difficult to communicate. It was difficult because the identity, sort of the brand, the brand, like Department of English, was being tarnished. So I feel and even in my other essay, I did talk about that, he literally struggled to sort of just usher the course called LGBTQ. They didn't allow him. Then he had to sort of bring that course under the subtext, under the pretext, alternative studies, alternative literatures. And that is when Aniket came in help, and he said okay, let's bring two different courses, alternative literatures, LGBTQIA and Dalit studies. So there are so many things, but I, as a person, I did find him easily accessible, approachable. I did find Raj, Aniket, and others. And it's not that I only appreciate. Most often, whenever we sat across, we had arguments. Yeah, we never, right? I as a student, once upon a time, there was a cafe, Marshall's Book Cafe. And we together, we were fighting like anything. The other person had to step in to just lock your horses now. So yeah, it happens. Yeah, so
I think
exactly.
I need to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No,
because
just a second.
Focus on the book.
Exactly. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, exactly that what I'm trying to point
Sorry,
out.
your personal opinion, we can discuss it offline.
Exactly that I wanted to come back to from everything. See, what I have understood from everything and whatever Raj writes about or any author writes about is about inclusion. Okay, any gay writer would write about inclusion. So the most important thing that because I'm a woman, okay, I have faced something or the other. That is something that is my story because I have faced it, and that is how I interpret it. Once I had gone to a principal's cabin and the peon told me, "What are you doing here? Get out." And when I was accompanied by a man, the same professor, I was an assistant professor then, but that person didn't even try to read my I-card. Instead, when a man was there with me, when another male professor was with me, so he was asking, "Kya hua sir, aapko kisse milna hai?" and all those kind of things. So from this experience, can I not conclude that because I was a woman and I was being treated, or because I look short or whatever, that I was being treated badly? It's the same thing that a gay person feels, that a person from a rural background feels, and everybody's story is important. Everybody's struggle is important. And I respect what you have gone through, what he has gone through. And the most important thing is that inclusion of things that are something that we cannot comprehend is what we are discussing today.
Yeah.
It's the same thing what you must have felt about. Right? So me coming from a privileged background may not have understood your struggle is what you are trying to put out here. It's this. I am not saying that.
No,
I am not saying that.
Ma'am, if I can. So can I, guys, I just want to conclude this because we have, we will have this conversation. Yes, ek second, guys. One second, sir, one second.
I just want to add one thing. Like him, like others, I also come from a very rural background. I came to the English department from Ahmednagar, Shirapur kind of thing. Okay? Two things I learned about what you said, what is it that we bring out. One is, don't sit on moral grounds, and be sensitive. I think that's two things which I think with Raj, we were in the university, irrespective of what people may have is be sensitive. To things, people come from different backgrounds, people have different preferences or something like that, be sensitive and don't sit on moral grounds, That's what I would say.
Fair.
It's not anything else.
So I think what we can conclude is the book is out today.
Let the book come out.
And I mean, I was just about to say that, and I think all the other conversations can happen with Raj offline. You can figure out how. For us, we love to see the fact that we have someone like Raj come out and have this conversation, and whatever we could do to bring the collective together, to bring the book out, has been done. So I hope this is more than whistling in the dark. It's like singing in the light, so to speak. Your next book title can be that, hopefully, and hopefully that Book Bar exists, and we'll have another conversation with all of you and even more to be able to really collectively celebrate this. Not that we're not.
Sure,
And,
thanks so much for hosting us.